The first time I saw Maya Torres step into the training facility on station Kepler 9, I thought someone had made a catastrophic error. She looked like she'd been assembled from spare parts, too thin, too pale, with dark circles under her eyes that suggested she hadn't slept in a week. Her medical file said she was 23 standard years old. I'd seen corpses with more vitality. "You're kidding me," I muttered in. Brilliant, my mandibles clicking in disbelief. My assistant Cora tilted her head, played sympathetically. "That's the human exchange athlete, the one Earth sent for the galactic trials. That's not an athlete, that's a walking apology." But here's the thing about making assumptions: they have a delightful way of detonating in your face like a poorly maintained plasma core. Maya stood in the center of the facility, taking in the gravity simulators, the neural response chambers, and the endurance pods within. Expression I couldn't quite read. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, only 50 years since first contact, and their emotional displays remained somewhat mysterious too. Most of us. Her face was calm, almost blank, but her eyes moved constantly, cataloging everything. "Welcome to the Kepler training complex," I said, switching to standard galactic. "I'm Coach Vex. I'll be overseeing you. Preparation for the trials." She turned to face me, and I got my first real look at those human eyes. Brown, unremarkable by most species standards. But there was something behind them. Something that made my training instincts perk up, despite my initial disappointment. "Nice to meet you, Coach," she said. Her voice was rough, like someone who'd spent too much time screaming or not enough time speaking. "When do we start?" "We." I let out a bark of laughter. "You need to pass a basic physical assessment first, 70% of exchange candidates don't make it past day one." She smiled then. Not big, not dramatic. Just a small quirk of her lips that somehow made me feel like I'd missed the punchline of a joke I didn't know was being told. "Okay," she said, "let's do the assessment." The basic physical assessment was designed to be brutal, not because we were cruel, but because the galactic trials actually were brutal. Athletes died. Not often, but often enough that we needed to weed out anyone who couldn't handle the baseline physical demands. The test started simple, a 5 km run-in standard gravity. Most species completed it in about 20 minutes. Maya took 37. She didn't complain, didn't ask for water, didn't stop. She just ran with that same blank expression, breathing hard, but steady. "Acceptable," I said, checking off the first requirement. "Next is strength assessment. You'll need to move weighted platforms in increasing increments of gravity." This is where most humans failed. Their species had only recently developed artificial gravity technology, and their home planet had relatively weak gravitational pull. Most human bodies simply couldn't adapt quickly enough to perform in high-gravity environments. Maya approached the first platform. Standard gravity, 50 kg. She lifted it smoothly. I increased the gravity to 1.2. She lifted again, slower but successful. 1.5. Her arms shook. She completed the lift. 1.8. She failed. The platform dropped in. She stumbled backward, gasping. "That's your limit," I said. "We'll note it in your file." She looked at me with those unremarkable brown eyes. Can I try again? No point, your muscular structure can't handle. Can I try again? There was no heat in her voice, no anger. Just a question, patient and persistent. I sighed, my breathing slits fluttering with annoyance. Fine, you'll fail again, but fine. She didn't fail, she also didn't succeed. She got the platform halfway up, held it there for 3 seconds while her whole body trembled, then let it down with control. Better, she said, mostly to herself. Over the next 3 hours, Maya failed every single combat simulation, struggled through the agility courses, and barely maintained consciousness during the high-altitude endurance trial. By every measurable standard, she was completely inadequate for galactic competition. But she never stopped smiling, that small, infuriating smile. You're done for today, I finally said. Report to medical for recovery. Treatment. What time do we start tomorrow? She asked. Dawn cycle, 7 standard hours. Can we start at 6? I stared at her. She was swaying slightly, her skin had taken on a grayish tint, and I was reasonably certain she was about to vomit or pass out, or both. Why would you want to start earlier? More time to train, she said simply. That night I pulled her full file from Earth's athletic database, Maya Tours. Former long-distance runner, cycling enthusiast and amateur boxer, no major victories, no remarkable performances. Average in almost every category, but there was a note at the bottom, added by her previous coach. Maya has a peculiar quality. She doesn't seem to understand the concept of quitting. I've never seen her give up on anything, even when giving up was the logical choice. It's either inspiring or deeply concerning, depending on your perspective. The next morning, Maya showed up at 6:00. Exactly. She looked slightly better, though that wasn't saying much. Ready? I asked. Always. We started with reaction training. Athletes would face randomized obstacles and opponents in a virtual environment, testing their ability to respond to unpredictable threats. The system adapted to skill level, becoming progressively harder as competency increased. Maya lasted 40 seconds before getting virtually obliterated by a Krell battle dancer. Again, she said, 45 seconds the next time, then 38, then 51. You're not improving, I pointed out. Not yet, she agreed. We ran the simulation 17 times. By the end, she was lasting almost 2 minutes, still pathetic by galactic standards, but a significant improvement from where she'd started. Why do you keep smiling? I asked, genuinely curious now. You're failing. Repeatedly, catastrophically. She wiped sweat from her forehead, took a long drink of water, and looked at me with that maddening expression. Because I'm learning. Every failure teaches me something new. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Probably, she said. Can we go again? Over the following weeks, something strange started happening. Maya didn't suddenly become good. That's not how this story goes. She remained objectively terrible at almost everything. Her strength barely improved, her speed stayed mediocre. Her combat skills were laughable, but her recovery time shortened. Her pain tolerance increased. Her strategic thinking sharpened. And she never, ever stopped showing up. Other coaches began to notice. Zara, who trained a Thexian berserker, Stopped by one afternoon to watch Maya run through an obstacle course designed for species with 6 limbs. Why is that human attempting the hexapod challenge? Zara asked. Because she asked to, I replied. Maya fell off the 3rd obstacle, landing hard on the padded floor. She got up, rubbed her shoulder, and started again. And GT, clears throat. And GT, she's going to hurt herself, Zara observed. She hurts herself every day. And you allow this? I flexed my mandibles in what humans might call a shrug. She's an adult, she makes her own choices. Maya fell again. And again. On the 7th attempt, she made it to the 5th obstacle. Before falling, she was smiling. Your human is broken, Zara concluded. I'm starting to think all humans are broken, I said, just in different ways. At the end of the 2nd month, we held a mock competition. Nothing official, just an opportunity for exchange athletes to test themselves against each other before the actual trials. There were 12 competitors from 8 different species. Maya came in last in every single event. But here's what the official results didn't show. In the endurance race, she finished 40 minutes after the second to last competitor. She could have stopped. Should have stopped. The medics were already packing up. But she completed the entire course, running alone through the final kilometers with no audience, no applause, no reason to continue except her own stubborn refusal to quit. In the combat tournament, she lost every match in the first round, but each match lasted longer than the previous one. She learned her opponent's patterns, adapted her strategies, forced them to work for their victories. In the strength competition, she lifted less than everyone else. But her form was perfect, her technique flawless. She extracted maximum efficiency from minimum capability. You should be devastated, I told her. Afterward, you lost everything. I didn't lose, she said. I learned where I need to improve. That's the same thing. Not to me. I wanted to be angry with her. I wanted to shake her and make her understand that positive thinking and persistence weren't enough to overcome fundamental biological limitations. The galactic trials would crush her. She would embarrass herself, embarrass her planet, maybe even get seriously injured or killed. But that smile, that stupid, inexplicable smile. Tomorrow we're increasing your training intensity by 30%, I heard myself say. Great, Maya replied. Can we make it 40? 3 months before the trials, I made a decision that would probably get me fired. I contacted 6 coaches who trained the top competitors in Maya's events. I need a favor, I told them. I need your athletes to train with my human. They laughed, all of them. Vex, your human can barely complete basic drills. Why would my champion waste time? Because she'll make your champion better, I interrupted. How? I don't know yet, but she will. 4 of them hung up immediately. 2 agreed, mostly out of curiosity or pity. The first training session was with Kale, a Drexian speedster who was favored to win the sprint competitions. He was fast, arrogant, and completely unimpressed by the small human female who could barely keep up with his warm-up pace. This is pointless, he said after the first drill. Keep going, I ordered. They ran sprints for an hour. Kale won every single one, usually by a significant margin. But Maya never stopped pushing. She didn't pace herself. She didn't save energy. Every sprint was maximum effort, even when she knew she couldn't win. On the 43rd sprint, Kale pulled up early, assuming victory was assured. Maya kept running, closing the gap, and crossed the line only 2 seconds behind him. "You stopped," she said, breathing hard. Kale's face flushed with embarrassment. "I was already ahead. The race isn't over until you cross the line," Maya said. "Never assume victory." Kale didn't speak to her after that, but I noticed something interesting. In his next official time trial, he ran through the finish line at full speed. Instead of coasting the final meters, he set a personal record. The second training partner was Lyra, Felian martial artist with incredible technique and forearms that made her nearly unbeatable in combat. She agreed to spar with Maya mostly because she found the entire situation amusing. "Try not to hurt yourself," Lyra said, activating the safety fields. Maya took a fighting stance. It was terrible, too rigid, too predictable. Lyra disabled her in 3 moves. "Again," Maya said. They sparred for 2 hours. Maya lost every single exchange, but each time she lasted slightly longer, defended slightly better, forced Lyra to use slightly more effort. "You're analyzing my patterns," Lyra said, surprised. "Of course," Maya replied. "That's how you learn." On the 78th match, Maya managed to land a single hit. A weak jab that Lyra blocked easily, but a hit nonetheless. It was the first time any human had touched the Felian champion during sparring. Lyra stared at Maya for a long moment, then bowed deeply. "You are a worthy opponent." "I'm really not," Maya said honestly. "But I'm trying to be." Word spread. Other athletes started asking if they could train with the human who couldn't win but wouldn't quit. My ridiculous, inadequate, impossible human who smiled through exhaustion and pain like it was all some kind of cosmic joke only she understood. 6 weeks before the trials, Maya collapsed during training. Complete physical shutdown. Her body simply stopped functioning and deposited her unceremoniously on the floor like a puppet with cut strings. The medical team stabilized her, but the diagnosis was clear. Severe overtraining, multiple stress fractures, dangerous electrolyte imbalances, and early-stage organ strain. She needs at least 4 weeks of complete rest, the doctor said, maybe 6. I went to see her in the medical bay. She was awake, connected to various healing devices, looking small and fragile in the hospital bed. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "For what?" "For failing. For wasting your time. For pushing yourself harder than any athlete I've ever coached," I interrupted. "For teaching galactic champions lessons they needed to learn. For showing up every single day, no matter how much you hurt." She looked confused. But I collapsed. I couldn't handle the training. "You handled more training than your body could survive," I corrected. "There's a difference. I won't be ready for the trials." "Probably not," I agreed. That smile flickered and died. For the first time since I'd met her, Maya looked genuinely defeated. But I continued. "You've already accomplished something more important than winning." "What's that?" "You reminded me why I became a coach in the first place." I left before she could respond because even a gruff Vrelian coach has limits to how much emotion he's willing to display. 4 weeks later, Maya was cleared for light training. The trials were in 2 weeks. She'd missed critical preparation time, and her physical condition was maybe 70% of what it had been before the collapse. We could withdraw, I suggested. Submit a medical exemption. No one would blame you. Do you want to withdraw? She asked. I want you to survive, I said. Honestly, that's not what I asked. I flexed my mandibles in frustration. No, I don't want to withdraw. I want to see what you can do. Then let's train. Those final 2 weeks were different. I didn't push her as hard. We focused on technique, strategy, mental preparation. Maya was quieter, more serious. The constant smile was gone, replaced by intense focus. The night before the trials, I found her in the empty training facility, running through visualization exercises. You should be resting, I said. Can't sleep. Nervous. Terrified, she admitted. I'm going to lose, coach. We both know it. Probably. Then why did we do all this? I sat down beside her, an awkward maneuver for Avrelian, but I managed. Do you know what you taught Kale? Not to coast. You taught him humility. He thought he was unbeatable. Now he knows there's always someone pushing, always someone refusing to give up. He's better because of you. And Lyra, you taught her that victory isn't just about talent. It's about persistence, pattern recognition, constant adaptation. She's incorporated your analytical approach into her fighting style. Maya was quiet for a moment. What about you, coach? What did I teach you? I thought carefully before answering. You taught me that success isn't always about winning. Sometimes it's about showing up, about trying impossibly hard for impossible goals, about smiling in the face of guaranteed failure because the attempt itself has value. That's very philosophical for a sports coach. Blame the human, I said dryly. She laughed, a real laugh, not the polite one she used in public. Thanks, coach, for everything. Thank me by not dying tomorrow. I'll do my best. The trials began at dawn. 15,000 spectators from 200 species filled the arena. Maya stood in the staging area looking impossibly small among athletes who were literally and figuratively giants in their fields. I could see her hands shaking, see the fear in her eyes. But when they called her name, she walked onto the competition floor with her head high, and I swear I saw the ghost of that smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The first event was the 5 km endurance race in variable gravity. 23 competitors. Maya knew she would finish last. Everyone knew she would finish last. The starting signal fired, and Maya Tours started running, surrounded by beings who were faster, stronger, and better adapted to the challenge. But not one of them wanted it more. From my position in the coaches section, I watched her push herself past every reasonable limit. I watched her refuse to quit when quitting would have been the smart, safe choice. I watched her embodied stubbornness that had defined every moment of our training. She finished last, obviously, 15 minutes behind the second to last competitor. But the arena was still full. 15,000 beings who could have left, who should have left, stayed to watch a failing human complete an impossible race for no other reason than she'd started it and refused to stop. When she crossed the finish line, the applause was deafening. Maya looked up at the stands, surprise and confusion clear on her face. Then she found me in the crowd, and I saw that smile bloom across her face, like the first light of dawn. She hadn't won, but somehow, impossibly, she hadn't lost either. The second event was scheduled for 3 hours after the endurance race. Standard protocol included recovery time, medical checks, and strategic preparation. Most athletes use this period to rest, hydrate, and mentally prepare. Maya spent it vomiting behind the facility. Your body is rejecting the stress, medical attendant said, scanning her vitals with concern. Your cortisol levels are dangerously elevated. I recommend withdrawal from the remaining events. Noted, Maya said, wiping her mouth and standing up straight. What's next on the schedule? The attendant looked at me helplessly. I just gestured for them to continue the medical treatment. You're insane, I told Maya. Probably, she agreed, accepting a hydration pack. But I've come this far. The second event was the strength trial, and it was designed to be spectacular. Competitors would face increasingly difficult physical challenges in front of the crowd, demonstrating raw power and endurance. It was one of the most popular events because failures were dramatic and victories were explosive. Maya's first challenge was to lift a graduated weight series. The lightest started at 75 kg, well above what she'd managed in training. She approached the platform while the announcer read her statistics to the crowd. I noticed something odd. The usual polite applause was absent. Instead, there was an expectant hush, like everyone was holding their breath. Maya gripped the first weight, 75 kg in 1.3 gravity. Her arms trembled, her legs shook. Snorts. For a horrible moment, I thought she'd fail immediately. Then she lifted it. Barely, messily. But she lifted it. The crowd erupted. 90 kg. She failed. Tried again. Failed. Third attempt. She got it. Halfway up, held it for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Set it down with control. The rules stated failure after 3 attempts. She should have been eliminated, but the judge, a stern Corthian with 0 tolerance for nonsense, looked at Maya's trembling form and said, Attempt 4. Authorized under exceptional determination clause. I'd never heard of an exceptional determination clause. I don't think it actually existed, but no one argued. Fourth attempt. Maya closed her eyes, took 3 deep breaths and lifted. The weight rose slowly. So slowly I could count individual seconds. 5, 6, 7. She locked her arms, full extension. Legal lift. The crowd lost their minds. Maya made it through 2 more weight classes before her body gave out completely. She placed 19th out of 23 competitors. By any objective measure, she'd failed again. But when she left the platform, 5 different athletes, including Kyle and Lyra, were waiting to shake her hand. You made us all look lazy, Kyle said, with a grin. That was incredible. I came in 19th, Maya pointed out. You lifted weights that should have been impossible for your species, Lyra countered. You earned every single kilogram. I watched this exchange with growing understanding. Something was happening here that transcended normal competition. Maya wasn't just participating. She was changing the entire atmosphere of the trials. The third event was combat simulation. This would be Maya's worst performance. By far. She had minimal fighting experience, limited reach, and her exhausted body was barely responsive after the first two events. Her first opponent was a Draxian grunt fighter named Tor, built like a mobile fortress with fists that could dent steel. The safety fields would prevent actual death, but pain was still very much on the menu. "I'll make this quick," Tor said, not unkindly. "You've already proven yourself. No shame in going down fast." Maya took her fighting stance, still terrible form, but slightly better than months ago. "Thanks for the consideration, but I'd like to try anyway." The match began. Tor moved in with a standard opening combination. Maya attempted to block, failed, and got hit so hard the safety field flashed red. She flew backward and crashed into the arena wall. Match concluded. The referee announced Tor advances. Maya stood up. Blood dripped from her nose. "That was one hit. That's all it takes," the referee said. "But I didn't surrender." The referee consulted the rulebook, looking increasingly flustered. Technically, Maya was correct. Competitors could continue until they verbally surrendered, suffered catastrophic injury, or the time limit expired. "You want to continue?" Tor asked, genuinely confused. "I want to learn what happens after the first hit," Maya said. They reset. The match continued. Tor hit her 4 more times. Each impact triggered the safety field. Each time Maya got back up. She never landed a single strike, never even came close to winning. But she studied Tor's movements with laser focus. On the 6th exchange, she almost dodged. Almost. The punch still connected, but with less force than before. "You're predicting my patterns," Tor said, surprised. "Trying to," Maya gasped, tasting copper. The match finally ended when the time limit expired. Maya lost by every possible metric, but Tor bowed to her afterward with genuine respect. "In my culture we have a saying," he told her. "The warrior who stands after falling is stronger than the warrior who never fell. You stood many times, small human. That takes courage." Maya couldn't respond because she was too busy trying not to pass out. I caught her as her legs gave out. "Medical bay," I ordered, supporting her. "Wait. How many events left?" she mumbled. 4. "But you're not competing in any of them." "Have to." "Maya, your body is shutting down. Again. I'm not watching you die for a competition you can't win." She looked at me with eyes that could barely focus. "Not trying to win, coach. Trying to finish." The medical team wanted to hospitalize her. I wanted to hospitalize her. Any reasonable being would have hospitalized her. But Maya signed a waiver, accepted a cocktail of emergency stimulants and pain suppressors that would let her continue, and walked back into the arena 4 hours later for the agility trials. I should have stopped her. Every coaching instinct I had screamed that I was making a terrible mistake. But I remembered what she'd told me months ago. Every failure teaches me something new. Maybe I needed to learn something too. The agility course was 3-dimensional. Chaos platforms, obstacles, and challenges that required speed, flexibility, and spatial awareness. Most species had natural advantages. Humans had none. Maya fell off the course 6 times in The first minute, each time she climbed back up and continued, the crowd had gone completely silent. Not because she was performing well, but because they were witnessing something none of them had seen before. An athlete who was so completely outmatched, so obviously inadequate, refusing to acknowledge reality. It should have been pathetic. It should have been embarrassing. Instead, it was magnificent. She finished the course in 14 minutes, the slowest time ever recorded in Galactic Trials history. When she crossed the final platform, she collapsed immediately, unable to take another step. This time the applause started slowly. One person clapping, then another, then sections of the crowd, then everyone, all 15,000 beings giving a standing ovation to an athlete who had just set a record for worst performance. Maya didn't see it. She was unconscious. I carried her to the medical bay myself, ignoring the pain in my own aging joints. The doctors hooked her up to every healing device available, stabilizing her failing body. She's done, the chief physician said firmly. No more competition. Her physiology cannot sustain additional stress. Agreed, I said. When Maya woke up 6 hours later, the trials were still ongoing. She was connected to machines, wrapped in healing fields, and looked absolutely terrible. What did I miss? She asked hoarsely. Everything. You've been unconscious. Did I miss the flight trials? Yes. And the tactical assessment? Yes. She closed her eyes and I saw something I'd never seen before. Tears, small, quiet, but definitely tears, snorts. Hey, I said awkwardly, you did amazing. You exceeded every possible expectation. No one thinks less of you. I wanted to finish, she whispered. I wanted to complete every single event, no matter how badly I performed. I wanted to prove that showing up matters. You did prove that, everyone saw it. But I didn't finish. I didn't have an answer for that. She was right. Despite everything, despite all her effort and courage and stubborn determination, she hadn't completed what she set out to do. Sometimes reality wins. Sometimes the body has limits that willpower cannot overcome. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the medical equipment beep steadily. There's a closing ceremony tomorrow, I finally said. Athletes receive their rankings. There will be speeches. You should attend, so everyone can watch me officially finish last, so everyone can see that you competed in the galactic trials and survived. She thought about this. Will you be there? Of course. Okay. I'll go. The closing ceremony was held in the same arena where everything had begun. Athletes stood in ranked order, receiving medals, recognition, and glory. The winners were celebrated, the top performers were immortalized in galactic sports history. Maya stood at the very end of the line, position 247. Out of 247 competitors, dead last in every event sheet. Completed. Failed to finish the remaining events. By any objective standard, the worst performance in trials history. When they called her name, something unexpected happened. The crowd's reaction was louder than for many of the medal winners. Not out of pity, but out of something else. Recognition, appreciation, respect. Maya walked to the center platform, limping slightly despite the medical treatments. The master of ceremonies, a dignified Valorian with more official titles than I could remember, looked down at her with an unreadable expression. Maya Tours of Earth, he announced. Formally, you have completed 3 of 7. Event, you achieved the lowest scores. In trials history, you failed to meet minimum qualifying standards in every measurable category. The crowd was completely silent. However, he continued, and I noticed he was no longer reading from the official script. You have also demonstrated qualities that transcend mere athletic performance. You have shown courage, determination, and an absolute refusal to surrender. Despite impossible odds, you have reminded us all why we compete, not merely to win but to test ourselves against our own limitations. He paused, then did something I'd never seen in 40 years of attending these trials. He removed his official medallion, the symbol of his office, and placed it around Maya's neck. This is not an official award, he said. This is a personal recognition from someone who has watched thousands of athletes compete. You may have finished last, Maya Tours, but you have earned something more valuable than victory. You have earned our respect. The crowd exploded, not polite applause, not ceremonial recognition, genuine, thunderous appreciation. Maya stood there, tears streaming down her face, holding the medallion like it was the most precious thing in the universe. Because maybe it was. After the ceremony, dozens of athletes approached her, champions, medal winners, record holders. Each one wanted to speak with the human who had finished last. You made me work harder, one said. You showed me that talent isn't everything, another admitted. You reminded me why I started competing in the first place, a third confessed. Kale found us in the crowd. I won my events, he said to Maya. 3 gold medals. But everyone's talking about you. Sorry, Maya said, laughing through tears. Don't be. You gave me the best competition I ever had, and we never even raced against each other. He held out his zoo hand. Thank you. Lyra appeared next, carrying her own collection of medals. I've been thinking about your approach, analyzing patterns, adapting constantly, refusing to accept defeat. I want to incorporate that into my teaching. Would you be willing to share your methods? My methods? Maya looked bewildered. I just tried really hard and failed a lot. Exactly, Lyra said. That's the method, pure stubborn persistence. It's more valuable than most beings realize. Later, sitting in the empty training facility one final time, Maya turned to me with a question. Coach, did I waste your time? I didn't win anything, didn't even place in the top 100. I considered this carefully. Let me tell you something about coaching. I've trained 17 galactic champions, athletes who won, set records, achieved glory. Know how many of them I actually remember? All of them. 3. The rest were talented beings who did exactly what their genetics and training predicted. They won because they were built to win. And the 3 you remember, they taught me something. They changed how I understood competition or effort, or what it means to push beyond limitations. I looked at her directly. You're number 4, Maya, and you'll be the one I remember most. Because I failed so spectacularly. Because you failed so beautifully. She smiled. That same small, infuriating smile I'd Seen on day 1. So, what happens now? Now you go home. You recover. You decide if you want to torture yourself with this insanity again. Will you train me if I do? Absolutely not, I said immediately. Her face fell. I'm retiring, I continued. But I'm recommending you for the Earth National Training Program. They need coaches who understand your species' unique approach to athletics. Turns out being stubborn and slightly crazy is a marketable skill. You want me to coach? I want you to teach other humans how to be like you, minus the medical emergencies. Preferably. That's. She paused, processing. That's actually a great idea. I know. I'm an excellent coach. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the training equipment power down for the night. Somewhere in the facility, other athletes were already preparing for next year's trials. The cycle continued. Coach Maya said quietly, "Yes. Thank you for not giving up on me." I flexed my mandibles in amusement. Giving up on you would have required you to stop first. That never seemed likely. She laughed. Fair point. 3 months later, I received a message from Earth. Maya had indeed joined their national training program, but not as a coach. As an athlete. She was preparing for next year's trials with the same insane determination she'd shown before. The message included a video. Maya running sprints in Earth's gravity, pushing herself to exhaustion, then getting up and running more. And smiling. Always smiling. At the bottom of the message was a single line. See you next year, coach. I'll try to finish last place faster this time. I watched the video 3 times, my mandibles clicking with something that might have been pride or might have been exasperation or might have been both. Then I started making training plans, because apparently I wasn't as retired as I'd thought. Some athletes win championships, some break records, some achieve glory that echoes through galactic history, and some just show up, try impossibly hard, fail repeatedly, and somehow change everyone around them in the process. Maya Torres was definitely the last type, and the galaxy was better for it.